stealthy... Okay, so in my British mind, I just went stealthy prick. And I'm like, nope, that's me. I told you that time when the nurse at the warehouse I used to work at embarrassed me in front of my boss because she didn't quite understand what she was saying. I'm sure this is a clip somewhere, but most of you have probably never heard this because it was a very specific line that she said. I used to work in a warehouse as a manual labourer. Just move boxes from out the back of a 40-foot trailer into logistical operations and stuff. Just moving boxes. And to do this job, you had to wear gloves because you were moving lots of cardboard and picking lots of things up all the time. And part of my job at the end of my shift was to clean up the warehouse, or at least my area of the warehouse, before the next shifts came in. And what I used to do sometimes is put the gloves on and just grab handfuls of dirt and just throw it into the bin, because the brooms and brushes were a little bit scarce, so you just used to grab stuff and throw it away. That's how you would work. But one day, I went to grab a handful of rubbish from the floor, and I felt a bit of a pain on the end of my finger. So I kind of threw everything down and looked, and there was a very thin metal wire that had been kind of caught up within the thing that I'd picked up, and the metal wire had stabbed through my glove into my finger. So I took the glove off, and there was a tiny, tiny spot of blood. Okay? It wasn't a metal splinter, it was just a little wire stabbed me, the tiniest spot of blood. And I walked up to my boss, and I'm like, hey man, I know this might be overreacting, but I'm going to go to the nurse for this because I don't want to get anything bad, like tetanus shot, I'm going to deal with all of this stuff. And he's like, what happened? And I went, I've just pricked my finger on a bit of metal. And he goes, oh yeah, go to the nurse, definitely. And the guy fully supported me. And I walked up to the nurse office at this front of the warehouse, and the nurse was this very, very, not angry, but very direct African woman. And she was incredible at her job, but she had absolutely no time to listen to anyone say anything. So as soon as I walked in, she was like, what happened? And I'm like, I've hurt my finger. And she goes, how? And I go, well, I picked up a bunch of metal, and a bit of the metal stabbed through the end of my glove, and the metal pricked the end of my finger, and now there's a tiny bit of blood. And she went, show me. So I showed her the finger. And then my boss walked past at the same time, and he leaned in and he kind of went, what's going on? And the nurse, not quite understanding the nuanced grasp of the English language that I think was maybe needed, shouted out the door, Josh has just come to me with the tiniest prick I have ever seen. And I'm like, that's not how you should have said that. I understand what you were going for, but I don't think that was the way you should have worded it. My boss held back laughter and then just kind of left. Now, thankfully, nothing bad came of the injury that I had received, and I was taken care of, if not slightly worried by the whole thing. Fun time. Eeyord's dead again, by the way, guys, so I'm going to do what I can here. But if I need to, I will just stealth away from everything. Nothing bad came from it. No, not at all. Nothing bad came from it. It was totally fine. It was just a bit of metal that stabbed my finger. But I'm glad that my boss was like, yeah, go and get that sorted. They did care. They did care. And the nurse cared in her own special way. I mean, then I became an MMORPG player, so maybe it did do some long-term damage that I wasn't really aware of. What did she do? Took a blood sample, sent that off, and then I think put a plaster on it just to really prove that I was not worth the time.